You've probably heard of tropospheric ducting before. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the forecast system that I use to predict if there's VHF or above DX. Now, I've used this method to work DX over very long distances, hundreds, even thousands of miles. You'll see my remote station behind me. I've got my 23 centimeter, 70 centimeter, and 2 meter Yagi arrays behind. And I know where to point my Yagis and where potentially the DX might be coming from due to these charts. So I'll show you exactly what they are. Hi guys, Hayden VK7HH here for Ham Radio DX, and I'm educating you and inspiring you to try new things in amateur radio. So let's talk about tropospheric ducting and tropospheric propagation. So here I am on the Tropospheric DX Modes website here by William Hepburn, DX Info Center. I'll put the links in the description below to all of this material. And this page basically talks about what tropospheric propagation is, and we'll just go into a little bit of this. We won't go into too much. There's a lot of theory around how ducting works and all that sort of thing, but the main things that we're worried about here are towards the top. So tropospheric propagation is radio propagation that occurs in the lowest layer of the Earth's atmosphere, the troposphere. It is 100% weather related. A Tropo DX mode is any abnormal condition that scatters, reflects, or refracts VHF, UHF, and or microwave signals in the troposphere, causing changes to their normal coverage. Another name for this is anomalous propagation, or AP for short. So just to summarize that, it is 100% weather-related propagation. It's got nothing to do with the sunspot cycle, nothing to do with the E or the F layer or the D layer. It's all down localized low Earth in the troposphere. Now, it goes on to say tall mountain ranges form a physical barrier to tropospheric propagation. Thus, tropo is more rare in or around mountainous regions. Deserts are usually too dry to support the long-distance tropospheric modes, and there are 6 main tropospheric DX modes, and they're all listed, as I said, below. So the idea behind this is to predict when tropospheric ducting is likely to occur. As it mentioned, this happens at lowish type altitudes, so if there's a lot of mountains around, then they may get blocked from allowing the signal to go over the mountains. Not always, sometimes it can go higher, but this will give you a bit of a rough idea anyway. So going on to this webpage, the Hepburn Tropo Index. So the charts that we'll look at shortly have a rating which are called a Tropo Index, so from 1 to 9 plus. Sometimes it can also exceed 10. So 1 being marginal, some downward bending occurs, marginal conditions, mainly super refraction, all the way up to 9, which is extreme, widespread ducting, very strong signals. And it goes in to explain below how to use the forecast maps and where it's likely to form and the type of paths that you require. So you can have a look at all these, and I'll put the link in the description. Let's have a look at the maps. Now, if we go to dxinfocenter.com, there is a little map here in the middle of the webpage. So if we click on that, so what we're looking at is we're looking at a tropospheric ducting prediction. This is not set in stone. This is all to do with using the information they use to predict to generate these charts are from weather data. So we can see here, if you actually correlate this with weather charts such as synoptic charts, you'll see that some of these areas like the brown and the green, which is high to very strong, areas of signal, that usually there might be a high pressure system, just a warm, stable mass of air which is sitting there, and of course moves with cold fronts and all that sort of thing, which generate our potential for tropospheric ducting. So we can see there, if you actually click on the maps update, and they will update up here. You can see the times, 2100 UTC. And the date also changes, so you can predict a few days in advance to see what is happening. And you can see here there's a little bit of activity down here in Florida, or off the coast of Florida. You can see here a little bit building up in Texas. If we keep on going here, looks like there's some nice, there we go, there's some nice red and brown and yellow. That's what we're looking for here. So the purple and blue is sort of marginal to weak conditions. We're looking more for the brown and the yellow and the greens, and you can have a look here and see oh, I might be able to work from this from this point in the state up, and you know where to point your Yargies then. You also notice too on the map here, there's some U's, little U's, usually around, we've got some drawn lines here and circles and all these sort of things. That's just saying that there's some unstable conditions there basically, and this can enhance or not enhance signals. So, but yeah, that's, if we go into here, we'll have a look at Australia. We're in the middle of winter here at the moment, so generally this, you'll notice enhanced conditions usually around spring and summer when you get that nice warm weather. Here where I'm located in my state of Tasmania, if we scroll along here, and by the way, to make the map update, you just click on the map. You can see there's a little bit here, marginal to fair. There's not a lot. There's no stations down here. This is all water, so I'm not likely to work anybody. Let's go back to North America. Let's look at Western North America. California is a great place for tropospheric ducting because it is such a stable weather patterns that you get in Western North America, in California in particular. You can see here we got some islands of Hawaii. So there's look at this. There's a lot of red and pink in here. Quite a nice stretch almost all the way to Hawaii. I think there's a whisper beacon. There may also be a CW beacon in Hawaii. So you could know that around about at this particular time, you can point your Yargies up or down the coast. You can point them at Hawaii and potentially work stations on 2 meters or above. So tropospheric ducting usually occurs on 2 meters, 440, 220 as well. It also affects the higher bands depending on how strong the duct is. 6 meters sometimes, not always, but 6 meters can also be affected by tropospheric ducting too. You can see here we go. We've got some nice coastal activity all the way up the coast. And of course, because there's no mountains in the way and nothing blocking the signal, we could get some very good enhancement up and down the coast. Now, the next thing that I did want to just show you is aprs.menolink.org. Now, this shows the real-time data. It uses the APRS network to draw a bit of a visual representation of what the conditions are like in real time. So you can see here there's quite a big red circle here over, what's that, Texas, I think. And if we click on this, we'll see all these lines being drawn, and we have all these APRS stations. Now, if we click on this one, so we've got a couple here. So W9, we'll let that refresh. W9 LEO-7. Pick this up. This shows all the stations that it's been hearing, and there's a couple of extreme ones here: 620, 619, 612. I believe this is in kilometers. And we can see the stations here on the left that it's heard. If we click on those, we can see that data. So this is using, all APRS data to correlate what the conditions are like in real time. If you'd like to learn more about tropospheric ducting and how we put this into practice, then check out this video above. And also, if you want to see us working New Zealand over 1,500 miles away using 1 watt and an IC705, check out this video below. It is quite amazing. So 73, thanks for watching.